is going on, guys? So we got to talk about Bitcoin. Yesterday, Bitcoin was going towards this resistance at 95.5k, and now today you can see that it's actually coming back down towards 93k support, and that is a very important support because we've seen it here and here, and we've also seen it a little bit here as well as here, and we've seen resistance there. So look, Bitcoin is at a very critical point. Look, if we go down here and we break 93k Bitcoin, we can definitely expect to pull back to this level here, which is 90k Bitcoin. And the thing with 90k Bitcoin is that it doesn't have much volume around there. It doesn't have much support or much volume. The volume was really coming in around 88k, around this area. That was our previous resistance, right? We always had lots of volume in that area. The second we would hit it, we would get pulled back whenever we had that as resistance, right? Second we would hit it, we always had just crashed. And we just didn't have that momentum to really bring us above that level for like literally the longest time. It was really a heavy area of resistance for us. So that'll be a good support for us if we are to go ahead and break this level here at about 93k. So that's something that you got to keep in mind. Anyways, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice, okay? Now, we got to talk about a lot today. So let's just start it off like this right now. As you can see, we're at 94k. That's very good. All right. But we're bringing the whole market down with us. The whole market's coming down with us. Stock market is also pulling back right now. Everybody's getting ready for tomorrow, Wednesday. That's the FOMC meeting. That is the Fed meeting. That is the meeting where Jerome Powell is going to be deciding whether or not, well, he's already decided technically, but he just hasn't released it. He's going to be deciding live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time whether or not he's going to be cutting interest rates or pausing. People are betting on him pausing, so you kind of see it pricing into the market today. It's kind of selling off leading up to that. So a lot of people are really nervous in the financial space, right? Right now, we're looking at the 30-minute chart here. While looking at the 30-minute chart, I do notice that it does seem like down here, the MACD is kind of curving upwards. You can kind of see how it's curving upwards a little bit. Possible reversal coming in once we actually reach 93k. We might see that reversal coming back towards 95k. You can already see it kind of already started to happen now, but it is getting a little bit of a rejection here. So you could easily see the RSI continue to go down from there. Even though it's trying to break out right here, you can still see that RSI curve downwards and continue to go down. Same thing with the MACD. It could continue to go down just like how I did here. It started to reverse a little bit. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on that one there because it started to reverse, but then you kind of see how it just was like, nope, we ain't doing that. We're not doing that. All right, so you can see right here, starts to do its little reversal. It was like, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to stay bearish. And then it did. It pretty much stayed bearish, right? And then it tried to do it again over here. Tried to reverse. You can see a little bit of a green bar here, but then no, it was like, no, we're going to stay bearish. Kind of did it here too. Like, we're going to reverse, but now we're going to stay bearish for a little bit. Okay? And that's kind of what we're looking at now. That's exactly what we're looking at now, actually. It's trying to reverse, but there's a possibility that it's going to stay bearish. Now, we see all of this, right? We can see clearly with our eyes that we're having a possible reversal that's going to be ended up rejected, going back down to 93k, right? We can see this clearly with our eyes. So what is the next step if we are to break 93k? If we are to not have enough volume, because look at that volume. I want you guys just to see the volume bars down here. These little lightly shaded volume bars, right? I know you can see those volume bars. I know they're not that bright, but you can still see them. I'm not even gonna turn up the visibility on it because you can see it enough, right? It's gonna get in the way. But look at that. Those red candlesticks are overtaking these green candlesticks. This green candlestick is literally just trying to come in to save the day, but it will not be able to save the day. And as you can see, very low volume leading up to this. Look at these candlesticks. These buying candlesticks are so much smaller than you can see all these bigger red candlesticks. These red candlesticks are always engulfing these little green candlesticks. So time and time again, you can see the volume was super low here, but the price was increasing. And that's because there wasn't much volume, so there wasn't much selling. There was just buying that was coming in, but it was very small amounts of buying. And then just that one, those two little red candlesticks took back half of those gains, and then we had 2 little green candlesticks trying to come back, and then these 3 little red candlesticks take back the gains. Like, look at how small all of these buys are, and also look at the sells. Like, the sells are overtaking right now on all of these candlesticks. This is absolutely crazy. So when you actually look at it, you can see that we are trying to reverse to the upside here. You can see it on the MACD. The MACD is starting to reverse. We may have a short-term reversal, right? But let's say we reverse and we get rejected one more time trying to get to 95K. Oh yeah, we're going to see 93K. And if we break 93K, we will end up going all the way down to 90K and then eventually 88K. So we really have to be careful with these current levels right here. Now, when we look over here at the 4-hour chart, a little bit different. You can kind of see, okay. We might have potential, right, to become bullish. But because look, you can look at the MACD. It looks like it wants to reverse, doesn't it? It looks like it wants to reverse for some buys. But it could easily say nope and then continue to go down even further into that bearish zone, right? And that's what it's looking like. 88K, very strong resistance for us. That's what we got to look out for. 88K is exactly where we're trying to look out for support. So tomorrow, Wednesday, is going to be a very, very big and important day in all financial markets. So that's going to pretty much decide whether or not we're going to be bullish or not. Because if Wednesday comes in good, you could end up seeing Bitcoin shooting all the way up to 99K and possibly breaking that and getting even higher. So that's exactly what we want to see. If Bitcoin ends up breaking 99K, like, we're going to have a nice little rise upwards, right? We're going to try to make it all the way up to 102K, right? We have a little bit of resistance here around about 102, 103K. And then from there, we can probably get a little bit more around 105K. But then 108K is definitely, obviously, a major resistance. So that's really what we got to focus on for the foreseeing future, right? Now, this right here is the daily chart. The daily chart looks a little bit more different here. And the daily chart looks scary, actually. The daily chart looks very scary because on the daily chart, it is taking into account everything from April 8th, 73K, 74K Bitcoin, all the way up until now. When you take into account all of that, we are overbought. And you can see it here on the RSI. The RSI is telling us that we are overbought. The MACD is telling us we are overbought. So, also, the trend line we just now broke is telling us we are overbought. And this is kind of scary when you look at it. You know, it's getting a little bit scary in here because you can see that one red candlestick here on in the MACD. I want to zoom in on that. This is the daily chart, by the way. You're seeing that one red candlestick here on the MACD. You're seeing that crossover on the MACD as well. So we're seeing the red candlestick and we're seeing the crossover. So we're also seeing the crossover on the RSI. So this is telling us we are clearly overbought, right? This is clearly telling us there's a lot of overbuying. You know, the way the RSI works, you know, it crosses, but on the way down, it's going to keep crossing upwards and downwards, but it's going to work its way down. You know, it's almost like a DNA chain. That's what the RSI looks like. It's like a DNA chain. It's going to cross and it's going to keep making its way downwards. So 88K, I feel like, is inevitable at this point. And there is that possibility that we test this bottom here, right? Because some people say, hey, this was a double bottom right here, you know, because those two candlesticks, it hit it for the 7th and the 9th, right? And it's on every single chart. Like, you can look at the SPY, S&P 500, QQQs, everything, NASDAQ, everything bottomed out from the 7th to the 9th. Looks like a double bottom, right? But some people are like, nah, we got the double bottom coming in now. So there's a possibility that happens. But with this daily chart, I'm really just looking towards 88K right now. We can worry about everything else after that if we get rejected, right? If we get rejected trying to pass 95K again and we go back down to 93, we're probably going to definitely go down to 88K. So that's what we got to look out for, okay? Now, moving on to the next thing. If you look at the daily chart, that's the daily chart, right? But we also got the weekly chart now. What is the weekly chart telling us? The weekly chart is telling us, wait, yes, we are pulling back, but we were oversold to start with. The weekly chart is saying we were oversold to start with. So now you can see the weekly chart is kind of curving up here. All right. And we could possibly be seeing something like this. But right before something like this, even as the weekly chart is curving downwards, you still see some selling. So there's still a possibility that we see that selling bringing us to 88K with the daily chart. But then when you look at the weekly chart, it's like, say, even though we'll pull back, it's probably going to be an immediate bounce back, right? And that's what the weekly chart is telling us. Now, there's always that possibility that you see the double pullback, right? That's what we're going to call it. Like in 2022, we pulled back really hard once here on the all the way back here on the MACD, and that is indicated by this whole drop here. And then we tried to recover, which is those little green candlesticks there. And then boom, we have another crash. And then that is this right here. So when you think about it, the RSI is in the same spot where it's at now. The MACD is in the same spot that it's at now on both areas. And you can see here, and down the second one would look like this. It would try to recover, but didn't know, and then it will go back down. So there is a really big possibility that we could be seeing another drop. And then there's also a possibility that we could have a nice pump before that drop. So that is what we need to pay attention to. Because if we can just pull back a little bit to 88K and have a nice pump to previous all-time highs, possibly up to 119K, and get rejected there, that would still be a nice pump before we have that major pullback, right? That was the daily chart. That was the weekly chart we were looking at. And then we have the monthly chart. The monthly chart is telling us, look, it doesn't even matter. We're way overbought altogether. The monthly chart is saying, look, y'all, this is stupid high. And the monthly chart is saying, look, we might keep running a little bit longer, but we ain't gonna run for too much longer. All right. I just want you to take it in. Just look at it. Now, like, if you look at it, it definitely looks like it's about to cross at the top here. We definitely are way overbought on the MACD. Definitely are way overbought here on this RSI as well. But it can get even more overbought, just like how it did back here in 2020 going into 2021. It got even more overbought. So what we're really looking at here is a possible pullback to 88K, followed by a pump to 119 to 120K if the 88K support holds strong. If we even pull back to 88K. But I still see us going up to 119K eventually, and then having a nasty pullback. And the strongest support after that nasty pullback is all the way down here at 58K. That is the strongest support after that nasty pullback. Like, yeah, we have pretty strong support at 74K, but the strongest one here is 58K. That is a very, very strong support. Like, we literally stayed at that support for a whole year, just about a whole year, right? From January 2024 all the way to about November of October of 2024. Like, almost a whole year we stayed at that support, right? And then when we used it as resistance, all the way from all the way from February of 2021, all the way here to December of 2021. So literally almost a whole year, 2 times using that as resistance and support. So at first it was our resistance, right? And then it became our support, because then we just, just a lot more money flowed into Bitcoin. And this was the new bull market. So we're still on a constant uptrend here inside of Bitcoin. But right now, this is what we want to look at. All right. So we want to take our trend line and we want to be like, look, where are we going next? Where are we going next? Everybody wants to know, where is Bitcoin going next? So if you look at it and you look at this trend line here, this is a trend, by the way, but what type of trend is it? Like, that's not the trend line we really want to look at. We want to create a new trend line, because if we live by this trend line, we're coming all the way back down to like 28K. We don't want to live by that trend line. That trend line is nasty. We don't want to look at that. This is the trend line we want to look at. when we're doing the monthly. We want to look at it like, okay, we peak out at 120K, and then we pull back and we meet our trend line here sometime this year or at the beginning of next year, sometime around June of next year, maybe we'll drop back down to 8K, meet the chart down there, and then 2026, the rest of 2026, just be rallying all the way into 2027. Trying to get all the way up here to 190K 2027, going into 2028. Really big bull market rallies. That's what we want to see out of this. All right. But yeah, this is pretty much all I got for y'all. I just kind of wanted to bring this to your attention because the monthly, we're way overbought here. Like this is way overbought. This is concerning actually. When you look at the monthly, you kind of get concerned. Like you're like, okay, let's just hurry up and make it to 119K so we can have that nasty pullback so we can get those discounts. All right. Let me know what you guys think about this. Hit the like button and subscribe. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. Leave a comment in the comment section. All that good stuff. And as always, I'll be back with another video.